They did a round robin, and they each programmed a little bit of their personality into the Marvin, just for funsies.
Well, I'm going to talk about eco-terrorism.
Got too excited about jorts.
I am leaving now with my Roomba or your blood on my hands.
I'm back on my bullshit.
What is meme if not air horn persevering?
No, this is not a family show.
And I quote, many American titties.
Why'd you have to bring Dane Cook to this, Andrew? No one wanted that.
Oh, you guys are not ready for what I've got today.
And I've apparently hit the very end of my attention span.
Give me like 30 seconds. I'm looking for rhymes. Hello and welcome to Debate This, the show where no one is right, but someone is definitely wrong. In this show, we take time out of our busy adult lives to talk about comic books, video games, and how 2022 is the year that apparently broke me in a different way, because the latest patch for Final Fantasy XIV came out like 2 weeks ago at the time of this recording, and I still have not played it because I have instead been distracted by not one, not two, but 3 different multiplayer free-to-play shooters that are available on the market.
Andrew,
I do not know what my life is. I'm not. I don't understand what my life is. Please help.
Is this your midlife crisis?
It might be.
This is weird because usually I feel like you have that one friend who's like, hey man, you're getting like a little too into anime or something, like maybe back it up. And now it's Andrew. It's like, Andrew, have you had enough anime recently?
Yeah,
is everything okay?
Yeah, I'm getting into
recommended
normal
anime.
Things. Yeah, I need 30 cc's of
anime
Full Metal Alchemist stat.
I think we'll know. I think we'll know the world is in crisis if Matt gets into really grindy JRPGs over the next couple weeks.
Yeah. Matt, do you want to talk about Eternal Sonata? Is that what we're gonna do?
No, I do not yet want to talk about Eternal Sonata or the Midnight Suns or Splatoon 3 or any other JRPG card-related video games.
Andrew, so it's what, Fortnite?
Well, let's get into it because it's going to be one of these 3 things. The answer may surprise you. So this actually brings me to the topic of today's episode, which I should mention. Today's episode is just for the gamers out there. If you're not a gamer,
capital G
this
gamers.
is not for you.
Oh, yeah. Why is there
this
a
is
Z
not
on
for
the
you.
end of that?
Yeah. Now my friends here have heard me already talk about Fortnite for the past month or so. And, you out there might be wondering, why has Andrew been simping for so long for a baby game for baby gamers? Well, y'all, that's because, believe it or not, I'm actually dog shit at video games. And today's topic is the perfect reminder for anyone out there that just because you've been doing something for nearly 30 years of your life does not mean you are any good and aren't above getting told to kill yourself by a 12-year-old.
I think we all need that from time to time. Keeps
It
you humble.
humbles you.
It keeps you humble, yeah. Keeps me in my therapy.
How will I ever know how bad I am at something if a 12-year-old doesn't tell me that they're having sex with my mother? Well,
Right.
Yeah.
It is the source of all of our adult onset imposter syndrome.
Yeah, well, and if that's the flip side, if that doesn't happen to you, you turn into a tech bro and start buying cryptocurrency.
That's right.
So
you turn into the Firefest guy. So, in all honesty, to step out of this weird bit, today's topic, we're talking about Apex Legends today, and I just want to like say out front that holy shit, this game is really good. Like I did not expect anything more than just like a carbon copy, surface level, just another free to play game as a service. You got your battle pass here, your exclusive skins there, maybe some mythic loot boxes peppered in, right? But kind of nestled in behind all of that is this really deep and interesting space opera that spans over like hundreds of years across 3 separate games in this kind of like multiple series franchise. Now, before we get further, let me just say a quick special thanks to #ButtWompNation member and Monster Cat Spirit Guide, Zakix, for commissioning today's episode. And as always, you out there listening, if you want to commission your own episode, you can do so by pledging your undying loyalty to #ButtWompNation at the $25 monthly level. In addition to getting to tell us what franchise to shove in our collective consciousness, every 3 months, you will get access to an exclusive episode each month on the premium feed, access to our post show for all regular DT episodes, and access to participate in our monthly movie nights and or streams, if that's the direction we end up going with the monthly movie nights, TBD. Now, fortunately, I'm not the only one here that's been handed a mysterious red card. I'm going to be jumping into the fray today with my squad mates, Todd, a robot sous chef Thomas, Matt, 7 trauma-induced holograms Cole, and Kyle, the last remaining space Viking Harper.
This episode feels like it was produced by the ghosts of G4 TV. Like, this whole thing we're doing just has kind of like G4 energy.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm bringing to the table. It's that PS2 versus Xbox toxicity.
Yeah.
Are the 7 trauma-induced holograms also all my dad?
Are they stacked into one trench coat to make one man?
You know what?
The
answer was inside you the whole time. Guys, we always start flavor texts with talking about what knowledge do you have. Do you guys know anything about Apex Legends prior to today? I did not prior to my own research.
I have seen the subreddit bubble up and down on Reddit from time to time. I know it's like an Overwatch-esque game, but different, and that's it.
You could argue any video game is Overwatch but different, but continue.
Guy who's only played Overwatch. Get a lot of Overwatch vibes.
Get a lot of Overwatch vibes. Yeah, what about you, Matt?
Yeah, I knew a decent amount about Apex, at least as far as gameplay goes.
Okay.
So I had a buddy growing up who played enough Titanfall that I know the gist of Titanfall very broadly, and then I knew Apex was kind of either in that same universe or like in that same vein or a spiritual successor or something like that. And then as far as Apex Legends, the game goes, I'm pretty familiar with the gameplay. As a big Overwatch fan, there's Overwatch, and then there's Overwatch but PUBG, which is Apex Legends, and then there's Overwatch but CSGO, which is Valorant. And so I'm familiar with Apex kind of in that tangential way where I know what it is. I've certainly watched friends stream it or people play it. I know that there is lore. I know nothing about that lore. I have not dropped in on a single game of Apex, but I know it's a battle royale with cooldowns and ults, and it's kind of pretty. And that's about what I got.
Yeah.
Similar to a lot of what Matt said, what I didn't know is Matt just used the word Titanfall a couple times, and I didn't know Apex Legends is associated with Titanfall, and now I'm listening.
Yeah, it is. And we're actually going to talk about Titanfall because they all are weirdly very connected. So let's talk about Respawn Entertainment, who is the developers behind Apex and Titanfall. And the story of Respawn begins with 2 men, Jason West and Vince Zampella. These are 2 of the 3 original founders of Infinity Ward, who many people know as one of the 2 machines behind the Call of Duty franchise.
Ward. Infinity Ward with a D. Because
Infinity
Ward,
which is different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not one of the, I assume, titles of the game, Infinity Ward. And that is considered to be, somebody correct me if I'm on my math here, but I believe considered to be the better of the 2, is at least in like the 360 era.
I don't know. That was not a math question.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Cool. So, long story short, after some hot legal battles between EA and Activision, the 2, West and Zampella, left Infinity Ward and began Respawn Entertainment, and brought over several of their peers to work on a sci-fi shooter that would compete with the likes of Halo and Gears of War. This was about the 2012 range, so this is the kind of the tail end of the Xbox 360 PS3 life cycle. So Gears of War was huge, right? Like that's the pinnacle of gaming was gray and green all the time.
Wow. Right? Yes. The Matrix color scheme.
That's right. So in March of 2014, Respawn released their first game, Titanfall, as an exclusive for the then newly released Xbox One. And then would later release PC and Xbox 360 ports. The game was a first-person shooter that allowed players to control mechs called Titans, in a series of multiplayer-only modes. You got your deathmatch, your capture the flag, team-based 6v6, etc., etc. The game was received pretty well, but was criticized for the fact that it had no single-player function or even any offline function. It was just multiplayer.
I remember that.
I
backlash.
did not know that.
And that's what most people remember about Titanfall is the reception of like, hey, we're gonna give this great like killer app. Oh, also it's just 6v6 multiplayer, which in 2014 was a lot different because obviously you've got games that are multiplayer and that's only, and that's the thing now. But
and I mean that was the whole thing of like the Xbox One was that there was a whole model that was just going to be like online only Xbox One too. And this was
the pinnacle of pushing multiplayer. This was also when you had games like Assassin's Creed 3 that had multiplayer modes, you know what I mean? Like this was that time. Mass Effect 3 also, which like thank you EA, right? Which we're going to talk a lot about EA too today.
The Xbox One stumbled on the starting line because of that online that no discs version sold that
Oh yeah.
I
mean, I just remember Titanfall taking a lot of this heat largely because they did it first, right? Because it's like
exactly
a hot 10 months before Overwatch comes out and becomes game of the year.
Wouldn't have been a big deal had it happened 2 years later. Absolutely not.
Yep.
So what did happen 2 years later in October of 2016 was the sequel, Titanfall 2. Titanfall 2 was the squeakle, like some would say. It was everything that Titanfall 1 was, but included a fully fledged single-player campaign. Titanfall 2 was received incredibly well. People love that game to this day. Actually, at the time of this recording, it just went like super on sale on Steam. You can get it for like $4. It's also free on Game Pass, which is how I played it. But yeah, I mean, it's a good game. It's fun. It is very much a like it was the best space shooter of its time before Destiny came out. Is what I would say. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that story because again, it fits all together. It also had a bunch of multiplayer modes. All of the multiplayer in Titanfall does revolve around the Titans, the mechs. So think Halo, but you can call down a big mech to rain hell on people, which is like pretty dope. So people loved it. It was great. And when Respawn created Titanfall 2, they tweaked it in a way. They tried to make the combat. They very strategically tried to make the combat a little bit slower and more calculated than say a Call of Duty, which is very twitchy, which is very reflex based. This was a little bit more like strategic. You had to find like the right loadout, the right Titan, et cetera, et cetera. There was this whole like Fire Emblem rock paper scissors mechanic where some would work against. You can imagine. So yeah, that's Titanfall 2. The game, like I said, was critically acclaimed. Unfortunately, didn't perform very well because at that same year, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare and Battlefield 1 also released, which like, again, 3 games that do effectively the same thing. After about a year or so of DLC coming out for Titanfall 2, Respawn pretty much went silent about the future of Titanfall. So they kind of built out this really like just this very, very overblown, incredible world spanning centuries of time, and just really like kind of just disappeared. Part of this was because Respawn got fully acquired by Electronic Arts in 2017. So between starting 2017, we really didn't hear anything else about Titanfall. There was supposedly going to be a Titanfall 3, but there was no announcement, no official announcement, nothing. Until February 4th, 2019. Respawn Entertainment, out of nowhere, dropped a video on YouTube, of all things, showcasing their latest project called Apex Legends. And they did so, and you know how Nintendo Directs do this thing where they're like, such and such is releasing right now. That's exactly what Respawn did for Apex Legends. It was like, hey, we just created this thing. Also, it's available today.
I remember that as well. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm on Reddit a lot, guys.
February. Kyle Berry online Harper. Now, Apex Legends was developed kind of as an experiment. It was developed to be a sort of spiritual successor to Titanfall, but leaning in on the silliness, the fun, versus the very like melodrama of the Titanfall franchise. Titanfall is very like a space opera. It's very serious. It's about war, obviously. Apex Legends just like, fun weirdos in the desert shooting each other, right? And again, this was very much experimental. They were trying to follow the success of, Matt mentioned PUBG, Player Unknown's Battlegrounds, which had just hit the scene in late 2018. It pretty much created the battle royale genre, which people listening, if you've heard of Fortnite, that's battle royale. Apex Legends is also a battle royale. The core of battle royale is that a bunch of people drop into this isolated island without any gear or items, and they all have to fight to the death, and the last person standing wins. And the way that you win is you run around and you find guns and resources and weapons and shit, and you fight everyone else. So their version, Respawn's version of that, was Apex Legends, which the main differentiator with Apex Legends is basically two core focuses. One, instead of just 1v100, Apex focuses on squads of 3 in a smaller capacity of actually 60. So it's 3 versus basically 20 teams of 3 up against each other. So 1v20, more or less.
Okay.
And also, they really wanted to streamline or focus on streamlining nonverbal communication, because at the time, a lot of these games really did require a lot of coordination, and a lot of like voice chat and things like TeamSpeak was really big at the time, right? This was a little bit before Discord, but a lot of those other apps, these games required that.
Yeah.
Apex Legends' other unique mechanic that sets it apart from other battle royales is its roster of heroes, which Matt mentioned. For those of you that don't use Overwatch as a point of comparison for all of your video games. Yeah, the difference is Apex Legends has a roster of heroes that all have their own unique abilities and cooldowns and things like that. So you've got, a healer, you've got the tank boy, you've got somebody who can kind of like, track their enemies within a certain radius, right? So there's all these different heroes that are released over time that can do different things. Apex Legends, when it released, it was received incredibly well on the day of its release. It started at Season 0 in February of 2019. And, honestly, despite a few pretty gnarly exploits and a notoriously sketchy loot box system, the game was received very well, and people loved it immediately. Apex Legends is obviously very active today, and at the time it's recording, it's in its 14th season. And since 2020, Apex has been made available on every modern console, including Switch. And as of March of 2022, they even have released a separate mobile version for Android and iOS called Apex Legends Mobile, which is effectively the same game. It's just tweaked a little bit differently. Mechanics are a little bit different. And there's actually some unique heroes in mobile.
Oh,
that's pretty cool.
Is there crossplay, or is it like Overwatch
Not with the
where
mobile
you
version.
play with? But
with like everything else,
okay.
Yep, PC and console will play together.
Okay.
Yep.
And I believe that Apex doesn't have separate pools the way that Overwatch
Correct.
does. Like it's everybody just
it's
partying
like
together.
Call of Duty Warzone. Yep.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Now, in parallel to Apex Legends, obviously Apex is Respawn's biggest franchise, but they've also created other things. Some of you may remember Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which came out in 2020. Mm-hmm. It was a kind of a Dark Souls take on the Star Wars franchise. It is getting a sequel, I think, next year. But yeah, that's the extent. They've done a few other smaller games, but Apex is definitely their biggest property. So, to talk about the lore of Apex Legends, we got to start with Titanfall. And the story of Titanfall begins, as it often does, with an evil mega corporation.
Love it.
Great.
Yep. Love to see it. So Titanfall takes place in the distant future, centuries after present day. In this universe, humanity has taken over dozens of planets surrounding Earth and has grown to the trillions. So any of your traditional like post-present day sci-fi space opera, we're terraforming planets. The massive scale of terraforming and colonizing is made possible thanks to the technology of Hammond robotics. We have said, and this is debate this lore, that the name Hammond is always equatable to evil.
Yep.
Yes.
That is true.
Hammond robotics power eventually surpassed any one individual government and basically created became
the world
a
government.
corporatocracy. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was the world government. Hammond Robotics merged with some other key tech industries to create the mega conglomerate Interstellar Manufacturing Corporation, or IMC. And
that's a weird way to say Umbrella Corporation.
It is Umbrella Corporation. It is Umbrella Corporation 1000%. And IMC would go on to rule this whole collection of planets as the sole corporatocracy of the universe.
It's like if Amazon would do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Amazon would do that and will do that eventually. IMC then perfected interstellar travel with the creation of jump drives, which is our, fill in the blank MacGuffin sci-fi space magic that allows for instant travel. Great, check the box. IMC then used that technology to extend their influence even further by contracting these fleets of space pioneers to go and colonize more worlds. And of course, harvest their resources and expand the IMC's reach of influence. Mm-hmm. Part of their strategy was to incentivize soldiers in the IMC's army to take early retirements and go colonize, which again, as these corporations are wont to do.
It's a private military. That's what that is.
Private military doing a space colonization.
We're doing a
space colonialism.
Space colonialism. Yeah. So all these outer planets were eventually dubbed the Frontier. And you can hear the air quotes in my voice. And the pioneers in the IMC profited greatly from this new influx of intergalactic resources. However, this led to the stagnation of the original planets, which we will now refer to as the core worlds. The core worlds were not seeing anything from the IMC's profits in the frontier worlds. Think, Greater England during the height of imperialization, right? So several civil wars actually broke out within the core worlds between the citizens of the core worlds and the IMC. Things got so bad that the IMC basically had to pull out of the frontier just to address the rebellions. And without the IMC breathing down their necks, the frontier worlds subsequently flourished and each created their own unique and self-sustaining economies. Because guess what we don't need ruling over us? A massive conglomerate.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing, right? Decades later, the IMC basically regained control of the core worlds and decided, hey, those frontier worlds, they're doing pretty well over there. We'd like some of that. So they came back and they were to the frontier and they were basically like, hey, this is ours now, thanks. And the IMC rolled right in because they're just, space Blackwater, and decimated the frontier. Weirdly enough, the frontier didn't like that. So the frontier formed their own militia, a militia of their own to fight back against the IMC. Unfortunately, the might of the IMC was overwhelming to the frontier militia, due largely in part to IMC's newest technological advancement, large mech robots called, say it with me, Titans.
The power of friendship.
Got it. These Titans, armed to the teeth, these would lead the front lines, and this period of time would later be referred to as the Titan Wars. Very original.
Yes.
Eventually, the militia learned to adapt and fight back, and they were even able to steal some of these IMC's Titans and reprogram them to fight on their side and later create their own Titans. So now we've kind of got this arms race of Titans v Titans on both sides.
As you do when you start a mech war. Yeah,
right, exactly. Yeah. As you do in a mech war. In one landmark battle during this time, the IMC swept in with a massive battle cruiser headed by two high-ranking officers. Their names were Vice Admiral Marcus Graves and Captain James McCollin.
Well, it takes two people to fuse together to run one mech, because that's how it has to work. It's two people.
You're thinking of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I'm
actually thinking of Pacific Rim.
That's Xenoblade 3 as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Well then.
So during this battle, the IMC's brutal tactics led Captain McCollin to actually defect over to the frontier side. McCollin also took a bunch of soldiers with him. So then McCollin and his crew would go on to lead a number of victories in the continuing war between the IMC and the frontier colonists. Pause. So that is the background for Titanfall 1. Now, remember I said Titanfall 1 does not have a single-player campaign. So the entire story of Titanfall 1 is this next bullet that happens, I think, in a tutorial, which is very weird.
Oh, okay.
So the war culminated in this key battle that happened on the planet of Demeter, which was a strategic base held by the IMC. Callan led the Frontier Army in destroying the IMC's operation on the planet, which basically cut their ability to like zip in and out of the frontier. This was essentially like their warp gate or whatever. So this was a huge loss for the IMC. Now this led to this like years-spanning stalemate between the IMC and the Frontier, where it was just battle after battle, one pushing one pushing the other. This marks the end of Titanfall 1. So enter Titanfall 2, which happens more or less directly after Titanfall 1. One key, and I'll actually let me pause again. So listeners out there, as we often do for these flavor texts, there is an image gallery. If you haven't already, access your show notes and click that Imager link. That's not Imgur, it's Imager. And you can start following along with all of the images right now. So one key tool in the Frontier armies were the pilots. Now, this is Titanfall's version of a Halo Spartan. You know, this is your super soldier, right? So image 1 shows us the pilots. These are elite soldiers equipped with jetpacks and cloaking tech. So their whole thing is that they can like run on walls using the jetpacks. And there's a really cool, like the opening cinematic of Titanfall 2 is really cool and also a little bit cringy. Showcasing the pilot.
It's an EA property at that point.
It's a Linkin Park video, right?
Yeah,
it's showcasing the jetpack soldiers fighting prowess. So the pilots that's who you play as in Titanfall 2, both in the single player campaign and the multiplayer one. The IMC, on the other hand, had kind of leaned out of using human soldiers and leaned in on using robotic simulacrums. Basically robots with human brains.
Yeah, like androids, like bullshit space androids. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, bullshit space androids. As well as bringing in help from mercenaries. Their top dog mercenary at this point was a man by the name of Cuban Blisk, and that guy is on image 2.
What a name, Cuban Blisk.
Yeah, the names.
That sounds like a cigar
so far
brand.
Have been amazing.
Yeah. The names are really good. Well, there's one particular name that I can't wait to give you. So Cuban Blisk would lead several of the IMC's battles against the militia during this time with his band of elite mercenaries called the Apex Predators. Do not read ahead.
Okay, I will not read ahead, but you said half
I said the name of the movie. I said the name of the thing. We're going to get there. So these Apex Predators were all accomplished pilots in their own rights. Now, there are 2 here that are important. The rest are not important. Image 3 is a man named Viper who pilots a flying Titan. And image 4 is a character named Ash who is a simulacrum, or AKA the simulacrum pilot. And Todd's face is the accurate reaction.
Unsettling.
Yep.
Okay, wait.
Perfect.
So, sorry, run me through this one more time. What side are Viper and Ash?
These are all these. So the Apex Predators this is your roster of bad dudes in Titanfall 2. These are all of your end game, your throughout the game bosses, or
they're your mini boss. They're the robot masters.
They're the robot masters. They're the bad guys from Metal Gear Solid, right? Whatever kind of.
Sure.
They're that, right?
Got it.
So by the end of Titanfall 2, you murder all of these. You murder all of these dudes.
Perfect.
Love it.
Excluding Blisk, we'll get there. But the Apex Predators specifically are mercenaries that work for Cuban Blisk, and they are on the side of the IMC. They are not part of the IMC. I want to make that distinction. They are mercenaries who work for the IMC.
Cool. Got it. Very
distinctions
clear.
we have to start making after 2000.
So 3 of the Apex Predators do not matter. They're dead. We don't need to talk about them. The 2 that matter are images 3 and 4. All right. So as a way to end the stalemate, IMC did what every evil megacorp does: try and build a massive superweapon from mysterious alien tech that can obliterate an entire planet.
They built a Death Star.
They built a Death Star. Yep, they built it. They did a Halo. Now, and also as it goes, their plans would eventually be foiled by a scrappy upstart rookie named Jack Cooper.
Oh, that's such a scrappy upstart rookie name.
Oh, I love it.
Jack Cooper, everyman frontier hero and our self-insert protagonist for the purposes of Titanfall 2. And he is Image 5.
He is
Jack Cooper.
certainly a white man.
Yeah.
He looks like Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
he plays the part of white man with gun.
Yep.
Sure does.
Yeah, he looks
So,
like one of those conglomerated images of like the
Yeah.
average white man.
Yeah.
He is an AI image.
They put all the leading men from all the movies of, Zero Dark 30 and Jarhead, and everything else. Like they put all of those into an image filter.
Yep, exactly. So, Rifleman Jack Cooper served for years in the militia army, dreaming of getting called up to the big leagues to pilot a Titan. Pilot a Titan.
Titan.
Pilot a Titan.
His day would finally come, albeit following attack on a militia cruiser ship that led to the ship crashing on the surface of the planet Typhon. And that's your tutorial for Titanfall 2 is your ship crash lands on this planet. Again, pretty much everybody gets wiped out. And you do a Halo and you fight through Typhon with your big robot friend. So during the events of Titanfall 2, Blisk and his Apex Predators meet the surviving members of this militia ship crash on the surface, and they start just murdering people left and right. Jack is the sole survivor of this attack, and then there's a series of events that lead to Jack being positioned as the temporary pilot of Titan BT-7274. And Image 6 is a promotional shot of Jack and BT. So this is your dynamic duo for Titanfall 2.
Okay.
Titanfall 2 is one half on foot missions, shooting as Jack Cooper, and then the other half mech missions with riding BT.
Ah, okay.
The single player I'll note that Zakix also suggested that I check out the single player campaign of Titanfall 2. Like I said, Titanfall 2 I would have liked a lot more if Destiny didn't already exist. I think I really would have liked it in 2016 is the way that I'll say it.
Sure.
Fair.
I genuinely like single player first person shooters that have some kind of thing to them. Like I loved Half-Life 2. Yeah, and the gimmick with Titanfall is that you can run on walls, which is really cool. There's some actually decent platforming in Titanfall 2, which is not a thing in most FPS games. Yeah, it's really fun, and there's a couple really cool missions. One mission you get a time glove where you use where
so it becomes it really becomes Prince of Persia.
It the best way I can describe it is it's no one's gonna get this reference. It is that the last dungeon in Skyward Sword and Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, where you do the dungeon in two different timelines.
Yeah, that reference was for me. I've watched that playthrough. I know that game.
Yeah. So but what the cool thing is an action game, you can zip and zap between these two different timelines, and so if you're facing a wall of soldiers, you can zip into the past and then show up in the present behind them, and then just shotgun them all. It's really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's fun. I recommend Titanfall 2. It's a good time. It's a 6-hour campaign, and you can play for free on Game Pass if you have Game Pass. So if you're looking for a first person shooter out there, check it out. It's
Andrew, you have to tell us if you're getting money from Game Pass.
Yeah, you say Game Pass a lot.
Guys, you don't understand the level of simping that I would do for Xbox Game Pass.
I do understand. You're doing it right
because
now.
I do it a lot.
It happens.
I do it a lot. It's a good deal. Anyway, we're moving on. So you play through the game, you're pursuing Blisk and the rest of the Apex Predators. Like I said, you're taking out one of the Apex Predators here and there along the way. Eventually, Jack and BT pursue Cuban Blisk to the ends of the planet and successfully foil his plans to blow up one of the other planets. How is he going to do that? This is by way of this supermassive weapon called the Arc. The Arc is, again, it's magic alien tech that can create a black hole and basically decimate a planet. Again, it's a fucking Death Star.
We did the Halo flavor text already. Andrew, we're in.
It's different Halo.
Yeah.
What you really need to know is at the end of Titanfall 2, you, like I said, you murder all of Blisk's team and you stop the weapon, you blow up the weapon, whatever, and you save the day. And in the last scene, Cuban Blisk actually he basically has you completely paralyzed, like you can't move. And he's kind of standing over. He's like, you know what? I don't need to kill you because like you kind of destroyed my weapon and like I'm not gonna get paid. So yeah, fuck it, I'm done. I'm out of here. And he
does the real chaotic neutral move. And
he's like... very and that's Blisk to a nutshell. He's very chaotic neutral because and part of it is like you see this hologram of the IMC general like kill the pilot, Blisk, and he's like, hey, you didn't pay me for that. Wasn't in the contract. Yeah. Peace.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. So what he does do instead is he hands you, or he kind of slaps this red card as shown in image 7 on the windshield of your Titan. And this red card will become really important 2 years later when during the reveal of Apex Legends. So in universe, years later, Cuban Blisk reappears one day kind of out of nowhere, advertising this new kind of blood sport he's calling Apex Legends as a way to recruit new members for his Apex Predators.
Wow.
So
really,
the
it's
premise
like game.
It's like Squid Game meets the Avengers, basically.
So the whole purpose of Apex Legends is it's basically a Mortal Kombat tournament to win a spot on Cuban Blisk's mercenary team.
That rules. I'm so fucking in.
It's cool.
I love the
It's
death
cool.
race situation.
It is exactly that, and it brings all of the just like insanity and craziness of that kind of like Death Race or Mad Max kind of energy. So image 8 is from the cinematic reveal trailer of Apex Legends. As you can see, Cuban Blisk has a gray beard now to show the time has passed.
To show the time has passed.
Absolutely.
It's in it's not in the image, but it's in the video. What he does is each one of the heroes, it's basically, so he has these little red cards that he hands out. That's his calling card. It's the Smash invitation. It's the Smash envelope.
Smash invitation.
Yeah,
so it's
exactly.
And it's really a Riker's beard situation too, where like no one cared about the game until Blisk
he grew the beard.
Grew the beard.
Grade the beard in this case.
Grade the beard. And is Blisk let me pause and ask this question. Is Blisk a serious character? Is he a comedic type, like a comedic Joker type character? Because
that's a really good question.
He looks jokery in these earlier pictures, and then he looks like I've come to you to help solve a problem. In this image.
It's the reverse. It's the reverse. Okay. So, like I mentioned, and the answer is kind of both, because Titanfall is a very serious game. It's a very like melodramatic game. Cuban Blisk is your standard like kill him, like none must leave. You know, he's very. But in Apex Legends, he's like, whoever wins is the best and whatever. Like he's just kind of like a cool mercenary,
just
like
a
cool cowboy
dude.
mercenary. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So a couple things you need to know about the setting. Blisk sets up operations in the outer fringes of the frontier. So again, you've got the core planets, you've got the frontier, and now you've got this third entity known as the Outlands. The Outlands are, again, the frontier of the frontier, but some of these are just like untamed planets, places that maybe once were considered unsustainable. And he would just build these like massive living coliseums to house this like wild Mad Max blood sport. In universe, Apex Legends quickly grew because again, everybody knows who Cuban Blisk is. He's Han Solo, right? Like he's the richest man. I mean, if you want to make money, you work for Cuban Blisk, right? Like he's your guy. And at this point, there is no law. Like this is the Old West, baby. Like there are no cops out in the Outlands, right? Like nobody gives a shit. The IMC ain't here, right?
Yeah.
So Cuban Blisk is the closest thing that there is to a sheriff at this point. So obviously, like these games grew massively in popularity, pulled in all kinds of characters from the frontier. You've got, from decorated soldiers attempting to improve their families or their friends' fates with the prize money, to these intergalactic criminals just looking to stave off boredom, and everything in between. So it's a rogues gallery of space criminals.
It's your old Coliseum.
Exactly.
You come here to legitimize yourself.
It's all the people you see sitting on the benches leading into the Coliseum tryouts. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do want to make it's just a kind of in-universe note. So that little red card, that's basically like an instant invitation from Blisk, right? So that's like Blisk is asking you, that is essentially like you have been invited to not have to try out.
You skip the American Idol auditions and get to go right to the judges.
There is still like a series of qualifier rounds. And again, this is American Idol in the strictest sense. Like there are people that train for their entire lives to get into the Apex games. So let's talk a little bit about the game itself. Like I said, Apex Legends, it's a free-to-play battle royale game featuring teams of 3 or 2 competing to be the last team standing. And in the tradition of PUBG, Fortnite, and Call of Duty Warzone, players are dropped into an arena littered with weapons and gear that gets progressively smaller and smaller. There's like usually like a storm or some sort of like whatever kind of nefarious thing that shrinks the battle map.
Are they always storms? Is that
they're usually
always
storms.
the framing
storm
device?
or toxic cloud or something?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's just a toxic
fire.
cloud in PUBG.
Yeah, it's toxic cloud in PUBG, and I think Warzone has a toxic cloud too. Todd just said Fallout 76 had fire. I didn't know Fallout 76 had a battle royale mode.
Yeah, they did, and I can't get into it.
Yeah, Todd and 100 other people played it.
Yeah. Todd's always the winner of the battle royale because he's the only one who plays Fallout.
It's just me.
Yeah. Now, I mentioned a little bit before, but I'll dive in further. Apex is different from the other battle royale games in a few notable ways. One, like I said, there's a roster of these specialized characters with unique abilities instead of like a Warzone or a Fortnite where you just play with a generic blank slate. The other difference is that there is 0 solo mode, much to my dismay. I like playing solo modes because I don't like working with teams and relying on other people.
Especially with strangers,
Especially with strangers, which is a huge bummer. So for me, like, again, I cannot state how much this is not my kind of game. You know what I mean?
Let's also revisit what he said at the beginning. He has been playing this game for a few weeks now. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Both of those things are fact. I should note also, too, one of the things that I think is most lauded about Apex is its nonverbal communication. Now, a lot of games have like a ping kind of system. Like I know, like Todd and I used to play Warzone with a couple other friends. Like you could ping items and things, but Apex really, like, I don't know what it is about its universal ping, but it's just so easy and streamlined. The ping is just one button unilaterally. If you're playing on controller, it's I think it's just a control stick click, and then on keyboard and mouse, it's just like mouse scroll wheel click. But if you can ping particular areas, you can ping weapons, you can ping enemy positions, you can double tap and ping, like say like there's an enemy over here, and then there's a pretty robust series of like prefab audio quotes that you can use too. Like I need weapons, I need this, whatever. And it's just really good, and they're all pre-recorded, so in your character's voice. So you know if you're playing like Lifeline, she'll say like battle rifle over there, you know. Like it's good, and it basically like prevents having to do any voice communication with randos, which again sucks. Like unilaterally sucks.
That like I cannot.
However, 12-year-olds still figured out a way to tell you that they're banging your mom through.
Well, it doesn't prevent text chat or Xbox messages, which I did not learn how to turn off quick enough.
I tell you what, man, like. Again, I'll go back. I'm the Overwatch guy, but like as the Overwatch guy, boy, streamlined nonverbal communication. What is this wizardry? Like, there's the biggest improvement between Overwatch 1 and Overwatch 2 is they're instituting a ping system, and already it's just like, oh, give it to me.
It's game changing.
To think of a ping system that has good reviews, like.
I mean, look it up. This is like, I mean, there's a lot you can say about Apex Legends that on the surface, right? It's a very pretty game, like Matt mentioned. You know, the characters are pretty balanced, but like this is number one. As more people play it, this is the thing that people like really are like, no, listen.
Are we all installing this game when this is done? Is that what's happening?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I won't say no because the last time I said no about installing a shooter, I downloaded it.
I told you guys.
Months later.
Also, so kind of the baseline rules here. Characters all draw from the same pool of weapons and armor, but every character has their own unique passive ability, active tactical ability, and ultimate ability. So there's 3 things that you have to watch out for, basically, or 3 differentiators. These abilities are all categorized into, or rather, the characters are all categorized into 4 archetypes based on their kit of abilities. So you've got offensive, defensive, pretty self-explanatory. We've also got recon and support. Now, unlike other role-based team shooters a la Overwatch, there is no prerequisite team comp. So you can have 4 offensive, or you can have 3 offensive people, you can have 3 support, doesn't matter.
Cool.
Apex has also introduced a few other modes through its lifespan, like the now permanent arena mode, which is just like deathmatch.
Sure.
But they've also added some limited time variations. I think Conquest, I recall, is one of them. But there will be attached like certain seasons. Battle Royale is the bread and butter. And of course, it's got all the trappings of your standard live service game. Every 3 months, there's a new season that introduces a mix of either new characters, new modes, new maps, along with a shiny new battle pass that contains new cosmetics for your characters and your gear. What's cool is that each season isn't just like in isolation. It's not just a theme. It actually expands on the world of this tournament. So like there is a linear plot line. We're really going to talk about the backstories today because frankly, trying to follow the different stories in the seasons is nearly impossible because that content doesn't exist anymore. But it is really cool for immersion while you're playing. And what I mean by that, again, it's not changing anyone's life lore-wise, but it's fun bits like, oh, this character, like, here's them in a situation with 3 other characters and like they go to a party and what happens, or you might find like a data log about like somebody's like mother's, terrible backstory or something like that. So it's all flavor, but it's really cool. It also, they do that to kind of flesh out some of the newer characters. So for example, the latest character they just added, her name is Vantage, and her whole thing is she comes from like a desolate planet, like an ice world planet where no one was living on. And the whole bit was like her mother essentially like sheltered her within their own like limited space. And she one day Vantage like went off on her own and got into some trouble and like almost died. And her mother saved her. But we find out like in that backstory, her mother was basically like a prisoner, a galactic prisoner, and had to like call down the space cops to come get her. So this season is Vantage learning about her mother's imprisonment, which is like really cool. I love that.
Oh, that is pretty cool.
Yeah. And all that stuff's optional. I mean, you can interact with it or not. It doesn't matter.
Right.
You also have to find it in game, which is impossible.
Right.
This is a free-to-play game, and you can play Apex Legends completely unrestricted up to level 60, including the new... I'm sorry.
There it is.
Completely unrestricted without paying a dime. You do start with only 6 of the now 22 playable characters. So it follows the League of Legends model, but their first 6 characters are static, always free, and then you can either pay in-game currency or real money to unlock the others. There is a like paid version. It's called the Champion Edition. That was released back in middle of 2020. That is $40 one time, and that will get you up to 15 legends and a bunch of other stuff like premium currency, exclusive skins, etc., etc. So it's like the Overwatch has the Ultimate Edition or whatever.
Yeah,
it's like that. And I kind of said this already, but like I don't think it's a very hot take. This game is very popular. I do think that Apex Legends is, honest to God, one of the best free-to-play shooters out there. Maybe second to Destiny, honestly. And that was agreed upon. Destiny is also free to play. Huh. We do not have enough time to talk about Destiny today.
No.
Oh no, we don't.
From the world, the characters, the action, even in the systems in the game, it all just feels very polished. Like it has that Nintendo level polish that a lot of these games just frankly don't have, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the hallmark of free to play games is for them to not have it.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And it just it feels like a really tight, really like well thought out experience. Now, again, I will say I am incredibly bad at this game. But all of that being said, the fact that like this is so not my game, I feel like it's so good. It's still making me come back and like really want to be good at this and still play it. So take that for what you will. Yeah. We're actually, I know we haven't gotten to the Apex Legends lore yet, but we're going to get there. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about some of my favorite characters and their backstories. So stay with us.
Cool.
Right on.
Like, everybody has the stereotypical on what a black geek is. Are you familiar with the term blurred?
Blood, no. Right. Some people said it came off of Scrubs. Some people said it came off the internet. I don't honestly really know.
Don't you see the skin, the eyebrows, the hair?
Yo, Mike Geeks still rock, you know what I'm saying, Dunks or Jordans or whatever.
Did I do that?
It's exciting. It's like, holy, oh, my dog is going to start barking. It's all right. She's excited about it, too.
And same as you said, like the barbershop talk, like we would go into really in-depth conversations about these theories and like, well, what if and how come?
It's not unusual to be
right, but we talk about anime, video games, comic books, and stuff like that, but when you hear us talk about it, the passion sounds like we arguing Jordan and Bron.
What do you mean? What does that even mean? What does that even mean?
Like, it sounds like barbershop talk.
It's because you don't know the history. Don't mean it ain't happened,
Broke that down right
there. But when you see the Black Geek, you don't see that. You see the socially awkward glasses. Well, this is me. And that's not a lot of us. A lot of us do sound and talk like us. You know what I'm saying?
Because it becomes stereotypical, as if that's where our strength comes from.
I don't know the geek that you talked about before. I know the geek you're talking about right now, though.
It was sort of a call sign so we could find each other on message boards.
Anime gives you life lessons throughout that whole thing. Like, there's not one anime that I know of that doesn't teach you to never give up.
It's just like, I just love seeing us go into the world and go into these different spaces and create things that weren't there before. And then it was like Miles Morales is like the normal, black person in the United States.
That was my first blurred moment, was seeing, Storm on the X-Men cartoon series. And I was like, wow, that's a black woman and she's strong, she's powerful.
That's what I want for us. I want us to be that voice.
All right. So we're going to talk about the lore of Apex Legends. Now, like I said before we got to the break, there's a lot here, and there's a lot that's really well hidden within the individual seasons. So what I'm going to talk about is all of the backstory stuff. This is going to be very similar to how Matt walked us through the Overwatch lore. And like the Overwatch lore, a lot of the info, a lot of the deep dive information exists out of the game. So Respawn Entertainment has published cinematic trailers and shorts that get into a lot of the characters' backstories. I think every character, save for maybe 3 or 4, have their own individual cinematic story. And in addition, and like I said before, there's all these other lore segments that you can unlock throughout the seasons. Now, the season stuff, those are more bits and pieces, maybe a voice line here, maybe a log here or whatever. But the backstory stuff is, you can get a lot from just watching the free videos. So take that for what you will. So we talked about Titanfall. Now, I haven't forgotten about Titanfall. I haven't dropped Titanfall off the list yet. We're going to talk about a few characters that actually tie directly into Titanfall. And that's interesting to note, just one, because it's interesting, but two, remember that people had no idea when this game came out that this was related to Titanfall, which I find very funny.
Yeah.
Outside of it's Cuban Bliss. That's the character I've seen from a game. Okay. And one more note here. These videos are excellent. They're all very, very, very good. There are 2 types of videos. There are the season trailers, which are Respawn just does a marketing promotional trailer. They're kind of character light, but they have some flavors, and they have a lot of the characters interacting with each other, and you get some cool action shots. I linked these guys to the season 1 cinematic trailer, which shows the original 8 characters kind of they're hemming and hawing and they're doing their thing and they're all buddies and it's a fun time. The other type of video is their more serious series called Stories from the Outlands. And this is what Blizzard did for Overwatch, which most characters gets a Stories from the Outlands episode. And these are usually animated. They're different animators, so everyone has its own look and feel, which is really cool. It's got that that Animatrix flair. Yep.
Yeah.
I said that to get Todd back on board.
I'm in.
I know how to.
I'm in.
He's back.
Watch Todd's attentions scroll away, so you just throw in.
I've just been looking
Animatrix.
I've been looking for heroes on the wiki.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna get there. There are other lore sources that I did not read. Meaning there are 2 books that are out there. There's an official sanctioned art book called Pathfinder's Quest, and there's also a 4-issue graphic novel called Apex Legends Overtime. And we're not going to talk about them because they're books and I didn't read them and I didn't want to buy them. Okay.
Fair.
So we're going to start by talking about an actual... Again, there is not one singular... There's no Omnic Crisis here. There's not like one singular event that ties everybody together. But there is one event that's probably the most monumental, and that's Project Iris. Now, Project Iris connects specifically 3 characters together, but it also ties a lot back to the original story. So let's rewind the clock about 100 or so years before the present day of Apex Legends. So before Titanfall, before Apex Predators and Jack Cooper, and even before like the war against the IMC, right? So it's the frontier. The Outlands are still there. They're just not called that because because Respawn hadn't created that yet. But the frontier planets are just there on their own. The IMC's fighting the war back home, right? Around this point, the colonies in the Outlands were facing a devastating energy crisis. Lead scientists at the time hypothesized that about 20 years they would be completely depleted of resources. This is when an individual named Dr. Mary Summers made the breakthrough discovery of a super rare element called branthium. It's unobtainium. Doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Space metal. Branthium would be the key in solving the energy crisis, as even the smallest shard could power a spacecraft. And we see Dr. Mary Summers on image 9. The thing was, branthium could only be found on the accretion disk of a black hole. Does anybody know what that means?
Is that like the rim of anus of the black
event
hole?
horizon?
Yeah, pretty much.
Basically. Okay.
Yeah, you're both right. It's the anus and event horizon of a black hole. Great job. It's just where I didn't know this. It's where like debris and stuff collects that's kind of like gravitating around a black hole but not getting sucked in.
The stuff in the orbit right before it goes in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So they discovered like that's where this branthium can be found. So together with her assistant, Dr. Ashley Reed, the 2 of them set out to expedition to a local black hole, just the local black hole, and
everybody's got one.
Everyone's got one, and secure a large enough collection of the element and transport it back to the colonies. So image 10 is Dr. Reed.
Is Dr. Mary Summers also a legend? Is she one of the playable?
She is, but don't read ahead.
Well, I
named her. I messed up and named her Horizon, and that's her like promotional art. Yeah, she's a playable character, but we'll get there.
That's cool.
Yeah, that was on me. So image 10 is Dr. Reed. Dr. Reed actually betrayed Dr. Summers by like at the point at which Dr. Summers like collected the branthium and said like we've got it, we're good. Dr. Reed cut the tether to her ship and essentially like made her ship like tumble into the black hole.
Whoops.
Which was wild. And the video cuts to Dr. Reed saying like, yeah, we got it. To some like shady figure. And we have no idea at this point why she did that.
Awesome.
Now, fortunately for Dr. Summers, that small shard that she grabbed, like just as an example, was enough to jump her ship back home. So she created a small wormhole in like right above the black hole. I don't know if you guys have ever made a wormhole in front of a black hole, but apparently what happens is it fucks with time. So
it's like that episode of Futurama. Yeah.
Yeah.
They put metal in the microwave and then hit something else with your time beam, and you end up in 1950s Roswell.
That's kind of what happened. So Dr. Summers warps back home, but she arrives back home 87 years in the future.
Oh,
that is oddly specific.
Yeah. Well, that 87 years in the future, Matt, just so happened to be at the height of the Apex Games. So
there it is.
So Dr. Summers joins the games under the moniker of Horizon as a way to raise money to research time travel, because her whole kind of thing is like she has a son who she promised like I'll come back to you, and she came back to him, but he was already long dead. It's really sad, and her video is actually really, really good. But also this is a very silly premise. So Horizon is one of the playable characters. So the answer to your question, Todd, is yes. Okay.
That makes sense now.
Let's go back to the past. Now, following Dr. Reed's return with the Branthium, a philanthropist named Lillian Peck pulled together this like dream team of the Outland's top scientific minds to band together and develop a way to operationalize the Branthium and fix the energy problem. They would call this Project Iris.
Well, this sounds wonderful.
Nothing can go wrong.
Certainly not.
Now, ironically enough, Dr. Reed actually became a mother figure for Dr. Summers' son, Newton Summers, after her mysterious disappearance. You can hear my air quotes. Newton went on to also get into science and secured himself an internship with Project Iris. So Horizon's son, Newton, is now working up alongside her sworn enemy in Project Iris.
Nice.
And it was Newton who actually discovered the reason why they were having so much trouble refining the Branthium for mass use. And the reason was because refining it would require several manual recalibrations, which would kill somebody. Again, it's space nonsense. It's space metal. You can't touch it. Yada yada yada.
Yeah.
But they needed a way for a proxy to handle it. So Dr. Reed suggests building a robot. So in Titanfall 2, the IMC, when you're playing through the game, you see these kind of like helper robots, like cleaning robots, where they're not hostile. They're just kind of walking around, and they all have smiley face emoticons on their chest, like a TV screen for some reason.
Weird.
Those are called Marvins, right? Or mobile robotic versatile entity. The N is what they're pulling.
Yeah.
So Dr. Reed says, let's pull one of these Marvins in and let's utilize that. So what they did was they kind of like changed its composition and built it from like this like rare metal where it could withstand the power of the Branthium. Cool. What they also did was the entire team each programmed, like they did a round robin, and they each programmed a little bit of their personality into the Marvin, just for funsies.
What?
Oh,
Wait,
cool.
hold on. Let's.
You know how you do
bring it back
in an
for a
energy
minute.
crisis.
Yeah. Right.
This has got big. This is a poll, but what's the supercomputer from Neon Genesis Evangelion that's actually the girl's mom or whatever?
I was gonna say,
Are you talking about?
Is it the Magi?
What they build in Ray, or what Ray is
No.
built from, or something?
It's
Or
like
you're talking about the seal?
No, the supercomputer that like
okay.
the lady I think like dies, but her brain goes inside of.
Yeah.
There
I
we
know
go.
what
We
you're
got
about.
there.
The other
you
lead
and me,
researcher's
at
mom
least,
was the
we got
computer.
there.
That's
Yeah.
for us. Anyway, yes, it's kind of like that, but like not nefarious and wanting to end the world. Yeah.
I was gonna say
and
this is like the Yes Man from Fallout New Vegas.
it's like the Yes Man, and he acts like the Yes Man. So I should note that the most prominent of these personalities was Newton's characteristic naivete and love for his friends and family. Thus, we have Pathfinder, who is in Image 11.
I love him.
Pathfinder.
Yeah, it's
Pathfinder
great.
is
He's
our
the
special
best.
boy. He is a rare force for good, and I've only known him for a short time. But if something ever happens to him, I will kill everyone, etc., etc.
Right.
Now, I should know before we move on, everyone loves Pathfinder. I knew about Pathfinder before I knew anything about this game. I saw somebody with a Pathfinder bumper sticker once, and I was like, I have no idea what that is, but I love it. Everybody loves Pathfinder. And the reason for that is he's completely wholesome and pure and just like not an FPS multiplayer battleground character at all. He's a talking robot and he's just like, hello, friend. I'm here to have a good time. Like he's like that. And
Here I go killing again.
Yeah, it's here I go killing again. Like I love you all. You know, it's like that. You get a lot of, like he's got some really good voice lines peppered throughout. I mean, just go look at, you can go, look up whatever composite.
I got
videos
another
and stuff.
reference. He is the opposite of Knights of the Old Republic's HK-47.
Yep, that's a good pull.
Yeah,
that'll be
the opposite of
for some
HK-47.
people out there.
Yeah, no. Okay. Anyway, go look up videos of Pathfinder. He's got a little bit in that season 1 trailer. He's all over the place. He is the mascot of this game. unofficial mascot. So for months, Pathfinder and the rest of the team of scientists labored endlessly to refine and package up the Branthium for use throughout the colonies. But once the first batch was finally completed and made ready for transportation, a band of apex predators, led by Dr. Reed, just fucking barged in and took control of the operation. At this point, this was Dr. Reed revealing herself to have been in cahoots with the IMC this whole time. So that's why she left she left Horizon for dead. You know, that's why like she's been kind of a nefarious entity. Now, keep in mind that this reveal happened 3 seasons after the Horizon video came out. So for 3 seasons, players had no idea who this character was and why she did this terrible thing and was raising Horizon's son.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep.
Crazy.
It should also be noted that she particularly convinced Newton not to show up for work that day. Newton being, again, Horizon's son. Now, while Dr. Reed and the mercenaries attempted to reset the Branthium's trajectory back to the IMC, because again, this would be like buku bucks for the IMC, right? One of the scientists was able to reset Pathfinder's programming to defend the lab and to murder, but not before but then she was quickly gunned down. Pathfinder then takes down like a bunch of the mercenaries, but then gets cornered by Dr. Reed in this moment of panic. Fortunately, another scientist like stabs Reed with a sword, which allows Pathfinder to successfully reroute the shipment back to the Outlands colonies and activate the lab's self-destruct function to close off the remaining supply to the IMC. So, in short, bad guys lose, good guys win, but the lab is destroyed. The Branthium is sent to the people. Everybody wins except for the scientists who all got brutally murdered.
Sure.
30 years later, Pathfinder awakens in an abandoned warehouse on a planet named Solace, which is just like a city planet, without any memory of Project Iris or his family. He wanders around for a while, taking odd jobs here and there, like a sous chef and a window washer, which is really fun. He's even a weather reporter at one point, which is also very fun.
Amazing.
Again, he's the silly character. All this time, he's searching for the answers to his lost past. Years go by, and Pathfinder gets conned into building a house for 2 dudes in exchange for information. This is obviously a scam, and Pathfinder then finds himself at this bar in Solace, tended by a man named Elliot Witt, who we're going to talk about in a bit. The two form a fast friendship, and both decide to enlist in the Apex games as part of their initial class. So Pathfinder is one of the original 8 characters, and one of the playable ones for free to play. So
cool.
Yeah. All right. Rewind the clock once more. We're not done yet. So I mentioned Dr. Reed was stabbed with a sword. She was super dead. Very, very, very dead. I cannot state how dead she was.
Dead she is.
Except she wasn't dead.
Cat.
There it is.
So Ashley Reed's dying body was recovered by the IMC, and her consciousness was uploaded into a simulacrum named Ash. Hey guys, remember Ash?
Okay.
Yeah, with the dead face and
the dead creepy face.
That.
Yeah, she's got the face of the thing from Doctor Who. That's a nightmare.
And what it looks like knives for feet.
Yep. So this is the simulacrum pilot that we murder in Titanfall 2.
Wow.
And again, this fucking blew people's minds because Ash was introduced in season
11 is
like
what this
11
says.
Yeah. Oh, did I say 11? Yeah, Ash was introduced in season 11. So it was years and years of Apex Legends going on before there was like any direct ties to Titanfall or any mention of Titanfall outside of Cuban Blisk and the Apex Predator.
Because Dr. Ashley Reed, Ash
becomes Ash. Yeah.
Through this process, so we've known in the past, we've known about Titanfall 2 in the past. We knew the simulacrums because the simulacrum robots are who we fight in Titanfall 2. But we never really got a lot about the process. There's a video, like Ash's backstory video, shows that the process to make a simulacrum is like way more sinister than ever believed. While Ashley Reed was definitely not like a good person, she still, was a person and had some connections. Like she cared for Newton as her kind of like adopted son. Like she legitimately cared about Newton. But when fusing her consciousness with the simulacrum kind of took over and basically trapped Dr. Reed in this like get out style mental prison. And it's like pretty terrifying. She's just like trapped in this mental prison forever. I'm like, that's it. Sorry.
Okay.
Cool.
So then years after getting summarily executed by Jack Cooper in Titanfall 2, Ash's body was recovered and rebuilt by IMC again, just to recover some data, and then discarded again to be founded later to be discovered by Pathfinder in a dumpster. And this is amazing because Pathfinder finds Ash's body in a dumpster and immediately begins calling her his girlfriend.
Awesome.
So he gives Ash a place to stay, and he's like, my girlfriend is here. And I've actually linked some of the voice lines between Pathfinder and Ash, and I do want you guys just to play them, and maybe Todd or Kyle will splice a few of these in here.
Okay.
Oh, I got an ad.
I also need some water.
Is yours also for L'Oreal?
Just give me a thumbs up when you're ready. Okay. Cool.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So it's Pathfinder. He's a good time. He's everyone's special boy. Okay, so Ash started to regain her memories, and during this time was contacted by Cuban Blisk, who informed her, and she had worked for Cuban Blisk before, right? So she's an old Apex Predator. Blisk tells her that her old friend Horizon has entered the game. There's a lot about like Ash's human consciousness starts to emerge again, and the two are in this like constant battle, and there's a lot that happened when she was introduced this season. She was introduced to like going back and forth between her conscious, like there's the simulacrum Ash and the human Ash, and they're like just kind of all back and forth. Basically, Ash enters the Apex games to hunt down Horizon, but more importantly to like prove her superiority to the other half, to her human half. It's whatever. She's an edgy robot. There you go.
Great.
So I want to talk a little bit about each of these players' kits, because I think the kits do a really good job of showing their personality and their backstory. Great example, Horizon. Horizon uses black hole powers to reverse gravity. So she does Zarya shit in Overwatch. She can create a cylinder and reverse gravity for people, which is like pretty rad.
Cool.
Yeah. And her ultimate creates like a little gravitational flux that pulls in enemies, and you can like, toss a grenade, shoot them, and they're just like trapped in this grav flux. Pathfinder's kit is Pathfinder utilizes his trusty grappling hook in his backstory video, which is also very good. He finds a grappling hook in a trash can. So that's like his thing. So he just like uses a grappling hook, and it's really fun. But he can like zip zap around the field. And then he does a thing where he can like interact with map markers to see where the storm is, which is a very particular strategy. But his ultimate creates a permanent zip line that all his team can use. So you can like, zip to the top of a structure or something like that.
Okay.
Ash is your traditional like assassin rogue archetype, right? So she can see where people died on the map in a limited time. She can also ping their location. Ash is a thing where she can snare an enemy for a few seconds, and then her ultimate creates like a one-way like teleportation. It's called a phase tear because it's edgy, but she can like teleport long distance.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's our first three characters. Next, we're going to talk about two more, Lifeline and Octane. And I should note too, just like on Overwatch, there are some characters who have backstories together. There's some where in shared universes, and then there's some that are just completely on their own.
Yep.
Sure.
Okay, so Image 13 is Lifeline. Lifeline is another one of the original heroes that can be played for free.
Lifeline is dope looking.
She's really cool. She's one of my favorites to play as. She's your Mercy, right? She's your very archetypical healer.
Okay.
She represents the small faction of truly support heroes, because there are only 4 support characters. Again, you don't have to have a support character. It's just like that's just the thing that they do.
Just an option, yeah.
But she is the closest thing Apex has to just like a very like straight up medic character, which is why she's one of the free to play options as well. Lifeline was born AJ Che, I might be saying that wrong, she was born the daughter of a CEO of this powerful Outlands corporation with close ties to the Mercury Syndicate, which is like the political power. It's like your trade syndicate, kind of archetype.
Oh, sure.
Like, yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Trade federation,
Yeah.
Lifeline grew up very privileged in the capital city of Olympus with her childhood friend Octavio Silva, aka Octane, who also happens to be the son of the owner of Silva Pharmaceuticals, another megacorp. So that's Image 14. Of course. Octane is super cool.
Octane has,
dude, yeah.
Octane has like Junkrat energy.
Yep.
Absolutely.
He's your Junkrat.
Okay.
So these two are born with silver spoons in their mouths. They grow up together, in high society. But when they're in their late teens, Lifeline and Octane are at a party, and they learn that Lifeline's parents are actually profiteering warmongers. They're Starks.
Whoa.
Sure.
Yeah, and they learn that their entire wealth was built on the brutality of the Frontier War. Oh. So Lifeline was like, fuck this, I'm out. She immediately runs away. She leaves home with her, and her family manufactures drones, so she has like a personal drone. And she and her personal drone go and enlist in the Frontier Corps as a way to pay back for all of the shit that her family did. She specifically joins like a humanitarian organization, like a Peace Corps, and works as a combat medic. And again, Lifeline is super fucking badass. She's awesome. Meanwhile, Octane kind of had a different trajectory. Again, growing up in the lap of luxury, but his sheltered life left him with this like insatiable urge for danger. So Octane in his teens began performing stunts and live streaming, and found his passion as a semi-professional daredevil.
He's the rich kid who never got told no, so he just accelerates his lashing out. Okay.
He appears to not have legs below the knee.
We're gonna get there, but that is a key point of his personality. Yeah, good eye,
Logan
Todd.
Huntsberger type, if you will.
a Logan Huntsberger type who doesn't suck. So after Lifeline joins the Frontier Corps, the two grow apart until one day Lifeline contacts Octane asking for help restocking this remote frontier hospital with medicine because his father is the farmer guy. So Octane's like, yeah, absolutely. Hell yeah, I'll be there in an instant. But to Lifeline's dismay, he shows up with like a bunch of grappling hooks and shit to steal stuff with, not medicine. Because he's like, oh, I thought we were just going to like break in. Isn't that what you wanted? She's like, no.
Awesome.
But they do anyway.
Wanted the medicine.
Yeah, but they do anyway. So they break into a lab. And again, this is one of the stories from the Outlands. It's really fun. And they beat up a bunch of guards and they're successful. But they make it back to this frontier hospital, and they're cornered by Lifeline's mom and Octane's dad, who are like, we're big evil corporate people. We've known what you're doing this whole time, whatever. And there's this point where like Lifeline's like, okay, mom, I'll go back with you and I'll finish my punishment, yada, yada, yada. And then she's like, now Octane, and Octane flips on this live stream. He's like, hey, check it out, everybody. Here's the CEO of Silva Pharmaceuticals stealing medicine from a sick war refugee. And they're like,
wow,
you got us this time. Foiled again. Dang it.
We would have gotten away with it
cool.
if it weren't for you meddling kids.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. So really fucking cool. So Lifeline's whole thing is that she, at that point, resolves to join the Apex games because she wants to raise money for the Frontier Corps to make sure there will never be another medicine shortage, because she is awesome. Octane, on the other hand, did not join the Apex games and instead decided to leverage his momentum at this point and perform what would be his biggest stunt yet, called the Gauntlet Run. Here's a really cool fact. The Gauntlet Run is quite literally the tutorial from Titanfall 2.
That's
nice.
kind of fun.
I like that.
In universe, it's a training program for pilots. Now, at the point of this game, pilots like really aren't a thing anymore, but it's just like a cool nod to Titanfall 2, if you know the story.
It started as this thing in like the story order. It started as this thing Octane did, and then later was like, hey, this was a good course to do. It's training now. Right? Is that what
the other way around? It was a training ground for Titan pilots, which you do in the tutorial Titanfall 2. He kind of he was like, hey, there was this thing that pilots used to do. I'm going to do it.
Gotcha.
But he didn't have a jetpack.
Yes.
It's the Kobayashi Maru from Star Trek.
Yes.
I don't know if that's anything for anybody, but it's the Kobayashi
Isn't that the Kessel Run?
No, Kessel Run is Star Wars. Kobayashi Maru is Star Trek.
Got it. I know properties.
I don't know.
Also, so Octane, to be clear, is not a jetpack wielding super soldier. He's just a man. So the way that he decided to set the course record was to literally propel himself by grenade explosions. He's going to grenade jump.
Okay.
Yeah.
This unofficially, but I have read a few articles that suppose that this was actually inspired by a speedrunner who did the tutorial section in Titanfall 2 using grenade jumping to get quickly through. I do not know if that's official.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I want it so bad to be a thing.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I choose to believe it.
Mm-hmm. So in doing this, Octane quite literally cripples himself. He blows his legs apart. And he's just like, cool, I did it, so that's fine. He literally does not care. And instead of taking the time to recover, he chooses to just tell Lifeline, hey, cut my legs off and replace them with metal prosthetics. So that's what he does, and then she does it.
Love it.
So then he gets bored again because you can't chase that dragon forever. So he enters himself in the Apex games as a way to chase that high. Octane was the first new character who was introduced in season 1, because there was a season 0, so season 1. So yeah, that's Octane. So Octane's whole thing is that he naturally regenerates health over time. His tactical ability, he literally injects himself with a stimulant and run faster. And then his ultimate creates an actual bounce pad. So he just plops a big old jumping trampoline on the field, and all his allies can use it to jump really high, which is
nice.
Cool. Lifeline, like I mentioned, Lifeline's one of the free-to-play characters. So her kit is that she's really good at doing medical shit. So everyone, if you've played other battle royales, anyone in the game can just revive an ally, but Lifeline can do that without doing an action. So she can still shoot, and because her robot does everything.
Oh, okay,
gotcha.
Similarly, she can also give a free heal to anybody using the robot. So she's great, and as you can imagine, the first one to get targeted in any combat.
Right. Sure. Always.
Yeah, so that's Lifeline and Octane. Let's talk next about Valkyrie. Valkyrie was introduced in Season 9 and represents the first direct character tie to Titanfall. So we talked about Ashe, who was Season 11. Valkyrie, though, was this was a huge reveal, because until this point, we only had Cuban Blisk, we only had little maybe references to Titanfall. Remember how I told you about Viper from Blisk's original Apex Predators, and that he was one of 2 important people? Well, yeah. Valkyrie, her real name is Kairi Imahara, is actually Viper's daughter.
I remember this being a really big deal.
This was a huge thing. Yeah. This was a big deal. Again, this was a big deal for a lot of reasons, because people at this point believed that Titanfall was pretty much dead. There was no more ties to war or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Also, this was a big deal because the voice of Valkyrie is Erika Ishii from the College Humor universe.
That's awesome.
Oh.
Yeah, she fucking rules. She's great.
Mm-hmm.
So Viper's whole thing in Titanfall 2 was that he was, in all caps, the flying one. That was his whole personality was the guy that flies. So Valkyrie carries on that tradition of being the flying one. So the story behind Kairi, Viper and Kairi were very close. The two would often take these joyrides in his Titan, which was also a plane, until one day, Kairi busted into the shed and took the Titan to fly herself without his permission. She, of course, bit off a bit more than she could chew, and found herself in the middle of an outer space dogfight, was shot down in the carnage, and sent plummeting to the earth. Fortunately, Viper was able to catch up with the busted Titan in another airplane, and he does this thing where he jumps out of the cockpit, manually ejects Kyrie, catches her, throws her back in the plane, and then takes the cockpit himself. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Now, Viper was fortunately unharmed in this whole thing, but the incident put a massive rift between the two until the day that Viper agreed to take a contract with Cuban Blisk to escort a powerful superweapon codenamed Arc. Now, does everybody remember what happened to Viper that day? That's correct. We murder him. We, as Jack Cooper, murder him senselessly. And we do not ask his name. We do not consider about his family. We just murder him in cold blood.
Just kill him. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So that would be the last time that Kyrie saw her dad. Fast forward a number of years later, Kyrie is operating as a smuggler throughout the Outlands after she and her mother kind of move out after the events of Titanfall 2. Kyrie had hunted down Cuban Blisk and confronted him in this seedy bar with the intent of killing him as she blames him for her father's death. Blisk instead says, you're not going to get anything from this revenge. Why don't you come hang out? Why don't you come be in the Apex games? And he invites her to participate. And he gives her a card. He says, your father didn't want this life for you. He wanted you to carve your own path. And there's this cool thing where he's holding a rocks glass and she shoots the rocks glass. And the glass explodes in his hand, and then she's like, "My name is Valkyrie," and she walks out and she takes the card. It's really cool.
Sweet.
I love Valkyrie. Nice. She's such a cool character. So like I said, there's I already mentioned she's voiced by Erika Ishii. The voice acting in this game is phenomenal. There's a lot of good voice talent. This one I just know was hit the internet in a real way. Mm-hmm. I also want to take a note to point. She's one of the game's openly LGBT characters. She's actually in an active relationship with another one of the legends we're not going to talk about today, whose name is Loba. And I'll make this point also. If you're looking at the roster of Apex Legends is very, very diverse. There's only 3 cishet white dudes presenting cishet white dudes in the whole roster. There's a lot of different nationalities covered. There's LGBT characters. There's even a non-binary character, which is super cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is cool.
So it is cool. So a little about Valkyrie's kit. Valkyrie can fire a salvo of missiles from the air that deal damage. Farah, and also these missiles also slow enemy movements. She uses the rockets on her modified jetpack to get extra air so she can jump higher. And her ultimate's really cool. Instead of doing what you would imagine to be a rain down missiles or something, she actually flies her allies up way up in the sky out of danger, and they can drop from a new position, which is really cool.
Oh,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right, we've got 3 more I want to cover. I'm just gonna give very highlight. Those are more of the really deep lore characters and ones
the story characters.
Yeah, the story rich ones. There's a ton of other stories. Again, go watch the stories from the Outlands. They're all great. I'm going to talk about 3 more. It's a mix of my favorite ones and ones that Zakix really likes as well. But again, there's 22 of these motherfuckers. They all have cool stories. Okay, so image 16 is Bloodhound. Bloodhound is my personal favorite legend. This is the non-binary character. Bloodhound comes from a tribe of space Vikings. Great. Which is so fucking cool.
Great.
And has, I think, the best backstory animation. So this is the stories from the Outlands that I sent you guys. I've got all this stuff in the notes. I'll post this in the show notes as well. The story of Bloodhound is Bloodhound entered into the games to honor the legacy of a man named Boone, with whom they bonded over hunting a rare beast. Following a disagreement, Boone left and was mauled to death by that very same beast. So Bloodhound has not loved anyone since then, 20 years ago, and fights in the games to honor Boone so that he may someday be welcomed into Valhalla. So Bloodhound's whole thing is this man they loved years ago has died a dishonorable death. So I'm going to enter the Apex games and murder people so that they can be entered into Valhalla.
So that I can get enough honor to siphon some off to them.
Yeah,
okay.
It's really cool. And
that's dope.
And their backstory is neat too. They come from a remote Viking village, an ice planet. That there's this Viking village that's being terrorized by monsters. Go watch it. It's cool. It's got God of War 2018 vibes. Next one is Mirage, who is image 17. This is Apex Legends' actual mascot, so this is your Tracer. Mirage is he's the front man character for both Apex Legends and the in-universe Apex games. Okay, so I mentioned Elliot Witt way back when we talked about Pathfinder. Mirage is Elliot Witt. Mirage is one of the original 8 Apex Legends, and he's like the closest thing to this universe's celebrity. It's like there's videos of him like on the red carpet. He's like, hey. He's the silly finger guns guy.
The Tony Stark-ish character.
Yeah, he's Tony Stark. He's also like a Peter Parker. He's the guy that makes jokes in awkward situations, right?
What's the guy from Mortal Kombat that's a celebrity? Kato wasn't.
Johnny Cage.
Johnny Cage.
Oh yeah, but he's not like silly. He's just a movie star. Yeah, Johnny Cage is a movie star.
Yeah.
I think Tony Stark's probably a better connection to this one. So, Elliot as a kid, Mirage's name is Elliot. Elliot as a kid was pretty average, but developed an interest in holotech while tinkering with his mother. His mother was like a scientist. His father left the family when he was very young, and years later, all 3 of his brothers enlisted in the military and were killed in action. So this left his family of 5 to like him and his mother, basically. This broke his mother completely. Realizing that like literal no amount of humor or antics could cheer his mother up from just her like mental state, Elliot left home and opened up a bar on Solace called the Paradise Lounge. So like his whole thing is like he's got a bar and he's the guy that knows people. He agrees to enter the Apex games along with his best buddy Pathfinder as a means to build awareness of the bar. And it's so cute because like Pathfinder and Mirage are legitimately best friends and they love each other. And Pathfinder's like, my best friend Mirage says this. You know, it's like really, I love it.
I just love the idea of joining these death games to advertise for your space bar.
To advertise,
amazing.
Yeah, it's great. There's some pretty like devastating voice lines from Mirage, and I didn't find them. Zakix actually sent them to me after the fact. They've so a few of the later seasons released some like their pre-recorded voicemails of Mirage talking to his mother, who has like severe dementia, and it's pretty gut-wrenching. I didn't link it here because honestly, like that kind of stuff kind of fucks with me. it's really
bums me out. Yeah, I don't really.
Yeah. But it's like it's pretty like his backstory is like pretty deep, and he's like the like I'm just gonna keep making jokes because otherwise I'd be crying. Anyway, let's go do the bloodsport. So yeah, that's Mirage. And the last one I'm gonna talk about is Wraith. Now hold on, I know what you're thinking. Oh my god, the edgy character. Wraith is not the super edgy character, even though I know their name is Wraith. Wraith.
Does that mean that there is a super edgy character?
Yeah, there's a few.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, always, Matt.
Every game has their Reaper. Yeah.
Yeah, the Reaper in this game is he's a serial killer robot. 1 second, I found his name.
Wow.
Yeah, he's
the serial killer robot archetype.
You know,
is that Revenant?
Hang tight. It's Revenant. Yep, you got it. Good
you
call.
need every video game series needs a character to move cans a monster, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. Revenant's voice lines are like, I found the skin bags. Like he's that guy. He's an edgy grandpa.
I love
Wraith
it.
on the other hand is not. Wraith is kind of like a Wolverine Mr. Fantastic hybrid.
Oh.
So, yeah. So her whole thing is that she started as a scientist who was actually as part of the ARC project on planet Typhon. So again, like, there's a lot of shit here that's connected to Titanfall 2, but you wouldn't know that unless you like really know both properties. In Titanfall 2, one of the missions is the one where you have the time glove. You're going through the IMC lab where they're researching the arc weapon. So the backstory is that Wraith originally worked in that facility, but she's actually from a different universe. So yep.
She has been like the whole time. It's not a.
She's originally from a different universe than the existing Apex Legends universe.
Okay.
So in her universe, the IMC actually won the war, not lost, and so the events of Titanfall 2 didn't happen.
Can I ask you a shitty question? And if it doesn't matter, just be like, it doesn't matter. Is she from a different universe or is she from a different timeline?
I guess both. I guess what's your definition of universe versus timeline?
Yeah, it's the timeline where the IMC didn't win.
A timeline in Marvel standards, but in this world, it's a different dimension or a different universe. It's the same thing. Same shit.
I guess the
Fair
reason
question.
that I asked that question is because we're doing space opera. You know, like we are in our universe in space, and it's feasible that some multi-universal travel is possible.
Another universe in the sense of like a different reality.
Okay, great, perfect,
cool. So Wraith's. Well, she wasn't named Wraith, obviously. I forget her name. She was testing phase shifting as a way to prove the existence of other dimensions and volunteered herself for more extensive tests. So again, like kind of like a Reed Richards type. These tests like completely broke her mind and wiped her memory, leaving her essentially like a patient inside an asylum. Like she was a prisoner in her own mind. That is until a version of her from another dimension busts her out of prison with a completed version of her like weapon that she created, or like was a dimensional gauntlet. Again, the time gauntlet from Titanfall 2. Awesome. So Wraith, this gauntlet can open up interdimensional rifts into other realities. So like the Wraith video is her getting busted out of prison and like getting saved by this other version of her and then escaping because the other version of her dies. And it's super cool. And where this translates into her powers is Wraith basically like protects herself in other dimensions of herself. So like her passive ability is she can hear, she's got Spidey sense, but her Spidey sense is like there's danger coming because it's her from other dimensions telling her that the danger is coming because she's having fights in other dimensions all at the same time. It's so cool. I love it.
Huh. So it's like the Spidey sense combined with like Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
In a sense.
So there is an infinite amount of Wraiths in an infinite amount of situations, and there is always a situation happening where Wraith knows there's impending danger.
I haven't seen Everything Everywhere All at Once, but I think that's the concept of that movie.
That's the plot. That's the plot.
Yeah.
It's just Wraith.
Yeah, so Wraith's cool. Her kit is very much like she can bamf from, she can create a portal. Unlike Ash, she can, other people can use her portals, so kind of like a Symmetra deal in Overwatch.
She's like Blink
she's neat.
from the X-Men?
Love that flavor. Yeah, sure.
Cool.
Yeah, like Blink.
Sure.
I don't immediately remember that character.
I'm watching a show that Blink is in right now, so
cool.
There's that.
Yeah. Cultural touchstone Blink. That's all I've got when it comes to Apex Legends, though. There are a lot more characters, like I said. For example, Revenant, the serial killer robot. Or there's what's her name?
There's a Lucio.
Which one are you talking about?
There's a Rhapsody is a music themed support.
Oh, that's actually one of the mobile exclusive characters. I don't know about them. Yeah. There's two characters called Bangalore and Newcastle who are brother and sister, but Newcastle was revealed like 3 years later and was like her long lost brother. And they're like freedom fighters, and they fought in the militia, and they were they fought for the IMC, and they like escaped as part of the squad from Titanfall 1, which is wild. There's a man named Seer who can just see the future, like that's his thing.
There's also a man named Crypto.
There's a lot of cool shit. Yeah, there's Crypto. He's your hacker guy. So he's interesting. I forget his stuff, but he's like the tech expert.
He has a drone.
That kind of deal. Yeah, I mean there's a lot of cool stuff going on here. It's a fun time. Final thoughts. What do you guys think?
This is pretty cool. This is pretty cool, and I'm inclined to try it eventually.
It's downloading on my Switch currently, so
there we go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in, dude. It's dope.
Yes, I mean,
it's really cool.
Yeah.
I watched the videos that you sent us and immediately was like, I would like to watch all of these, please. And didn't before the flavor text, but that YouTube video that I have saved that's all Apex Legends animated shorts in order, it's going down tomorrow for sure.
Oh, man.
Yeah, baby. Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for listening in to Debate This. You can follow along the arguments on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at DebateThisCast, or on our website at debatethiscast.com. Once more, if you want to commission your own episode of Flavor Text, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/debatethiscast. Joining up at the $25 level will get you access to the post show, the Google Doc notes, our monthly movie/stream nights, and then after 3 months, you'll unlock your first flavor text episode. Until next time, I am Andrew Henderson.
I'm Todd, big fan of crypto, the legend, not the thing. Thomas.
I'm Matt, Python a Thailand, a mountaineering-themed flooring installer. Cole.
And I'm Kyle, Council of Wraiths Harper.
It's very good. And we're saying thanks for debating with us. And if you think we're wrong, you can come fight us behind the swing sets, nerds.